There have been thousands of fan-made Doom levels designed since 1993, but did you know about some of the custom mods created by id Software employees? The most iconic example of a former Doom developer making non-commercial levels is with John Romero and Sigil, although that wasn't the first mod he created since his work on Doom 2. Tech Gone Bad and Phobos Mission Control were two maps made by Romero in 2016, and they were remakes of E1M8 and E1M4 respectively. When the original Doom was being developed, John Romero worked on most of Episode 1's levels, except for E1M4 Command Control, well kind of, but we'll get to that later, and E1M8. Phobos Anomaly. This was his opportunity to reimagine these maps from the ground up, but still keep in line with the original level's design and feel. Tech Gone Bad was the first of these Romero remakes to be made, and it gives players a pretty solid challenge. The original E1M8 was a pushover, and the only difficult part of it was not getting blown up by your own rocket launcher when killing the Barons. On Ultraviolence and Nightmare, there would be 10 specters that could get right in front of players and cause them to get caught in their own explosion. Aside from that, E1M8 was very easy in retrospect, and that's why Romero probably wanted to spice up the level. The beginning of this updated map is especially rough, with the teleporting shotgunners and the cracks in the floor. If you're not paying attention, you could get outnumbered quickly and die early on. As you pick up more equipment and become more familiar with the level, the easier it becomes, but I think for an episode's final map, it makes sense why the difficulty is the way it is. Tech Gone Bad uses a similar aesthetic to Phobos Anomaly, but everything else is fairly unique. Romero would strike back with Phobos Mission Control, the remake of E1M4. Even though Romero did work on Command Control, he only finished the map up, and it was initially designed by Tom Hall. Many of the maps in Episode 2 were started by Tom Hall as well, but they were polished up and completed by Sandy Peterson, a mapper who I consider to be very underrated. Phobos Mission Control is way less punishing than Tech Gone Bad, and this makes sense considering that it's a remake of an earlier level. I do prefer Command Control over this E1M4 reimagining, but that's because it is just such an iconic level, and I personally rank it as one of my favourite levels in Knee Deep in the Dead. However, that's not to say that Phobos Mission Control is bad at all, because it is still enjoyable to blast through and has plenty of monster closets to keep players busy. After these two warm-up exercises, Romero would develop Sigil, and I think that megawad is great. Romero teamed up with Buckethead and James Paddock to provide the soundtrack and MIDIs, and Sigil was designed using a limit-removing Doom level editor. I've already talked about Sigil in a previous video, so I just urge you to check that out. Those were all of the custom mods that John Romero made, but American McGee and Tim Willits also designed Doom maps outside of their id Software work. American McGee didn't create any standalone single-player WADS unfortunately, but he was responsible for converting all of Doom's maps to be playable on the Atari Jaguar port of the game. He also randomly created a deathmatch level in 1994, known as id Map 1. This was released as a PWAD when he was employed at id Software, and you can still download it from Doom World for free. There's not much to say about this level, it's just a standard multiplayer arena, and it reminds me a lot of Doom 2 Entryway. American McGee worked as a level designer for id Software and created various maps for Doom 2, and one of his contemporaries was Tim Willits. Tim got his start at id Software by making levels for The Ultimate Doom's 4th episode, Thy Flesh Consumed. He then worked on some of the master levels for Doom 2, and he also designed several custom Doom mods throughout the 90s. The strangest level created by Tim Willits was called Kick Attack in 1996, and it was intended to be a promotional vehicle for a brand of soft drink named Kick by RC Cola. This drink doesn't exist anymore, but in the same vein as Chex Quest, the WAD aims to raise awareness for a brand, and it even features new sprites and textures. The monsters you come across in Kick Attack were sent by Alpen Spew, which is a spoof of Mountain Dew. These enemies all have custom sound effects, which in theory is good, but they get really fucking annoying after hearing their lines over and over. Come here, baby. At least their updated sprites are decent, with the Pinky replaced by this hunchback old man, the Shotgunner and Imp are now these Power Ranger looking dudes, and the Lost Souls are textured as these demonic Mountain Dew bottles. Also, is it just me, or does the Shotgunner replacement sprite look like a mix between Doom Guy and Duke Nukem? This level was produced in 1996, so it might be possible that they were inspired by Duke 3D, but who knows at this point. Speaking of which, who the fuck knows why this Doom RC Cola crossover even took place? Apparently they went to id Software asking for their blessing, but that's besides the point. Even though Chex Quest had an entire episode's worth of levels to play, Kick Attack only contains one map, and while it's decent enough, I wouldn't really recommend tracking it down to play. Of course there is new artwork and everything, but still, Kick Attack is not worth playing nowadays, unless you just have to play every level made by an id Software employee. If you are one of those people, you also need to play Tim Willits' Empire level series. These 4 maps reek of mid-90s quality and remind me a ton of the master levels. They don't really age well, and that's to be expected. However, some of the levels did have interesting quirks about them. The first map includes 2 teleporters at the end, and if you pick the wrong one, you will die a slow death in the pool of toxic waste below. This gimmick reminds me of Plutonia map 11 with its 2 teleporters, and how the teleporter on the right leads the player to an archvile trap. There's another experimental design choice in the second Empire level, with how you have to take the correct path across this room to trigger the doors to open up. This is really inventive, but the rest of the level design is fairly standard. The Empire series was designed specifically for Doom 1, but all 4 levels included were tacked on to the Raven series that Tim Willits produced for Doom 2. This is kinda lazy, but it was over 20 fucking years ago, so who cares really. The new levels in Tim Willits' Raven series are fine, but there isn't much to note. That being said, I think it was interesting to see what these id Software employees got up to during the development of Doom 1 and Doom 2, and in the case of John Romero, what he got up to 20 years after the release of Doom with designing new maps. I love playing through these now novel Doom levels, and I hope you enjoyed this little trip as well. Thanks for watching.